Seahawks fans, today we are here to collectively mourn the loss of our Super Bowl champion and MVP running back, Kenneth Walker. Collectively, it looks more and more every day like Kenneth Walker is not going to return to Seattle, and he will instead embark on an adventure in free agency, which will take him to probably a new team. Situation is basically, I feel, in my heart of heart, I feel like the situation is basically Seattle has a number that they don't want to go over, or they don't want to hit. And Kenneth Walker wants that number, if not more. He wants to be in that top 5 highest paid category, which, go get your money, dude. Someone will pay that. Seattle, on the other hand, I can see they don't want to pay. They understand what your market value is, and what we have to offer is not that at the moment. I mostly wanted to make this video so that way us Seahawks fans can see that the road ahead might not be that bleak, even if Kenneth Walker does decide to leave. Now understand, the free agency has yet to start. I'm recording this on Saturday, March 7th, so anything could realistically happen between today and Wednesday. But it does seem like he's going to leave. But I wanted to make this video to kind of tell Seahawks fans, the road ahead doesn't have to be that bleak. I've looked at who's available in free agency, the draft, and potentially the trade market, just to see that, maybe the road ahead isn't that bad. And for Kenneth Walker, go get your money, dude. Have a good time. So the argument that Kenneth Walker does want to make this top 5 running back money is that he's the Super Bowl MVP. He's the first running back to get it since like the 70s or something. And I would argue against that. He's deserving all the money. Yes, I want to pay him. I don't want to pay him $20 million a year. The top 3 highest paid running backs are Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, and Derrick Henry. Kenneth Walker is not in that conversation of top 5 running backs. All 3 of them are. Is he in the top 10? For sure. I'd put him maybe at 8. That's just me being real as a Seahawks fan. I know what I've seen from the last like 4 years, and paying him close to $20 million a year, I don't want to do it. Even as close as $15 million a year, I wouldn't be comfortable doing that. I wanted to look in the free agent market and just see around what's available. So the current situation on the team, right? If we say that Kenneth Walker does leave and they don't sign anybody immediately, the running back room looks like this. We have Zach Charbonnet, who just tore his ACL. We have Damian Martinez, who was on IR all year, and we have George Halani, who filled in for Zach Charbonnet after he departed from the team as that RB2 position, and he did great. And he just signed a futures contract, I believe, with the team. So not the prettiest running back room, but it's actually not pretty at all. So we're gonna look at the free agent market and see who could be available and who might Seattle be targeting in this free agent class. So first up on our list of possible free agents is Travis Etienne. He looks like he might be departing from Jacksonville after a great year to go test free agency and see what he can make. And honestly, come to Seattle, man. He had a better statistical year than Kenneth Walker. Granted, Kenneth Walker was splitting the majority of the carries, whereas Etienne was the bell cow. He had a better statistical year. So I feel like he could come in and kind of fill the shoes of Kenneth Walker, if not an improvement at the position. So I feel like that could be a good option. However, a drawback I do see is that he still might be a very pricey running back because he had such a statistically pretty good year in Jacksonville. So I feel like Etienne could price this out and end up going somewhere else that could pay even more money for whatever. Because clearly the Seahawks have a number they don't want to pay for their running backs, and they just won't pay it. We're going to move on to our next guy now, Rico Dowdle. So Rico Dowdle had a great year in Carolina. He had those 2 games where he rushed for over 200 yards. He would be cheaper than both of the running backs that I already mentioned, Kenneth Walker and Travis Etienne. He would definitely come in at like maybe an $8 million a year type of deal. Maybe maybe even lower, if I'm being honest. He could come in at that range and be pretty serviceable in that position. And he kind of fills the shoes that Kenneth Walker did almost to a T. I feel like him and Charbonnet could be like that next 1-2 punch. You have your speed guy in Rico Dowdle, and you have your punch up the middle guy with Zach Charbonnet. The only drawback I could see coming from signing Rico Dowdle is that last year could be a fluke, and putting a lot of money into a potential like I don't want to say bust because it's not a draft, but like a potential bad contract because last year was a fluke. That's not normal for him. So he could end up coming to Seattle and completely wither away and just not be able to replicate those, like his Carolina 2025 season. Is that likely? Probably not. I think he could be a pretty serviceable guy, and I honestly, as a fan of the team, I would be probably happy to see if Rico Dowdle or Travis Etienne came in, and whereas we could had them on a cheaper deal than Kenneth Walker is commanding because of needing that extra money down the line to pay Devin Witherspoon and to pay JSN, because both of them are going to command probably position resetting contracts. JSN has already said he wants to reset the wide receiver position, and go for it. I think that they can get it. So we'll see how that goes come Wednesday, I guess, what happens with those two. But I do want to mention a third person here. Apologies for the brief intermission. I had to have more wood to this fire. But I wanted to talk about Tyler Algier. I've seen a lot of people saying that he's going to go to the team because he will be a super cheap prospect, and he was good his rookie year when he wasn't stuck behind Bijan Robinson. I talked about how he's stuck behind Bijan Robinson in my first video, but he is a good running back, and he could be a good team somewhere. He could be a good running back somewhere. I don't know if that somewhere is in Seattle. At the time when I made that video, this was me assuming that Kenneth Walker was returning to Seattle, so I wasn't as worried about him leaving as I am now. Or not worried, but so much as accepting. I don't know how much I like that the possibility of him coming to Seattle, mostly because of how similarly him and Zach Charbonnet play, and at that point, what is the point of having two Zach Charbonnets on the Seahawks at the same time? They don't serve the same purpose, especially when you have such a run first, run heavy type of offense where that is really necessary to have that stud at running back. As much as a Georgia boy as I am, as much as I would like having Tyler Algier on my team, just because that was, hey, he played for the Falcons for a long time. I don't know how much I don't think I would want him on my team. Because of how similar he runs to Zach Charbonnet. But who knows? Maybe Zach Charbonnet doesn't return to the team and he's on injury reserve all next year because of his ACL. Who knows? I don't think that's going to happen, but let's go on. So some other free agents I didn't do a whole lot of research on that I think could possibly be a good replacement were Brian Robinson Jr. Now, he was traded from the Commanders, where he was the RB1, to the 49ers, where he was more of an insurance policy in case Christian McCaffrey was hurt again, which is understandable if you're the 49ers. But I personally felt bad for Brian Robinson Jr. because of he was an RB1, he was doing great, and then he got traded to the Niners, where he was immediately relegated to a backup role. I felt bad. I feel like he wants to be that starting running back again, so I feel like I could see him trying to go somewhere where that could happen again. Where is that? I think Seattle's a good landing spot. I didn't do much research into his stats. This is just me going off of what I remember from last year and just the trade in general. I believe it was for like a pick or something too, so it wasn't even like a player swap. We'll see. I think it'd be cool to have him. I'd like to see him, but I don't know if it happens. So the last name I have on this part of the list is Kenneth Gainwell. He had a pretty good year behind. It was as like a RB2 with Jalen Warren up in Pittsburgh. And I feel like he could be a similar role. I don't know if they give him starting running back money, but I think that he honestly could be he could be a pretty good candidate. I feel like he'd be a sleeper too. You could probably get him on like a $5-6 million, maybe a $7 million deal for like 2 years, just to see how it goes. Or a 1-year deal, just as a, hey, maybe you work, hey, maybe you don't. So another one that I've seen some people say on Twitter is addressing the position in the draft. Now, this is, like I said, I don't know if I've said it before, but I don't believe that this class is a very particularly strong draft class outside of the first round. But there is a running back that I really like from this draft that I'm going to be following no matter where he goes, just because I'm a fantasy guy. Mike Washington Jr. out of Arkansas. He had a really good combine and shot his draft stock up like a lot. So I honestly am going to watch where he goes, and if he goes to Seattle, I would not be mad if they named him the starter day one. I would be happy. He honestly really impressed me. However, I think the likelihood of him falling to Seattle is very low because we have other holes on the entire team that need addressing. We have 2 corners that are open for free agency. We have a really good safety in Kobe Bryant that could be leaving. Not to mention we have Rashid Shaheed who's probably leaving. So we have a lot more holes in the offense that I think that running back can be solved in free agency really fast, that I think we need to address those other holes, like a potential extra receiver, more depth at corner, more depth at safety, moving into those kind of positions, or making moves at edge to get a better edge rusher. So potential trade candidates, I can't see anyone really wanting to move off of their guy. A lot of running backs are hitting free agency right now, so a lot of them are free agents anyway. So the only trade candidate I personally would be like, oh my gosh, is if Seattle went and traded for Breece Hall. This is why I think Seattle has a number they just don't want to go over, because if it was an issue where like, hey, we don't want to pay you $12 million a year, and if it was looking like Kenneth Walker was going to leave just because he didn't want to sign his $12 million deal, or you were going to give him 15 but he wanted 20, why not just franchise tag him and pay him 14? Clearly the number was lower than 14, so you didn't franchise tag him like Breece Hall was. So I don't think that this makes sense, because you'd be paying him his 1 year, $14 million contract that he's on a tag for. And you probably want to extend him as soon as he gets here. And if he's already being paid $14 million on a tag, he's not going to take lower than that. So this is one of those things where you just kind of have to use your brain a little bit and be like, okay, if they won't even do this, they're definitely not going to keep him. So Kenneth Walker, see ya. And that's why I also don't think Breece Hall is coming, because they don't want to pay him that $14 million a year. So where do I think Kenneth Walker could land? We've talked a lot about what Seattle could do, but let's talk about Kenneth Walker. I think that Denver could use a running back a really good running back, pretty bad. But I also know that Kansas City and the Giants are really big contenders to go out and be a big spender and get a running back in free agency. So who gets him? I don't know. I have a strong feeling that Denver might get him, but Kenneth Walker is a really big draw factor to Kansas City because they're such high caliber championship teams. But I think a sleeper one could be the Commanders. I feel like the Commanders could take him at a pretty cheap price and eventually could make something work. If you guys enjoyed this video, or if you don't agree with my opinion on where Kenneth Walker could go or what Seattle could do at the running back position, leave it in the comments. And also, I've been making these videos just kind of whatever I want to make, which I think is good. But if you guys have any ideas that I could look into, put them in the comments. I'll see if I want to address them or not. Thank you for watching. See ya.